Hi.
Hi. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Good,
How's
how
it
are
going?
you?
Good. Just a quick heads up. We put on the form, we put on the website, but we started recording our consultations and training sessions. It's just helped out a lot with COVID to like show people we're still operating and we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I just read over Kane's consultation form. Kane is the 3-year-old, correct?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, he'll be 4 in November.
Okay. So very sorry to hear about what happened. Go in and fill me in on what you think is important for me to know about Kane here.
For us, he's great to us, and the handful of few family members, as far as like my dad, my mom, her dad, her mom, and 2 of my friends, is about all he lets into, that people could come over and he could see, and he's happy to see them.
And our new neighbors, like,
Yeah, a few of our
know.
new neighbors, he's gotten used to them over time, and he likes them a lot. And
he's very slow to warm up to people.
very, very slow.
But like, we went through a training with him, and outside of our house, he's a different dog. Like, I can walk him on the trail. I can walk him down our street. If there's other dogs, he doesn't really pay attention to them. He used to when he was little, but he doesn't so much now. He's not people aggressive on the trail when I'm walking him. If he's in our car or our home, he takes like his protective duties very seriously, to people he doesn't know. And he's always been that way. I for one don't like that. I grew up with a very loving and nurturing dog that was just as big as Kane, so I feel like I'm kind of out of my realm here. My parents don't know what to do. They don't know how to help me. We've had dogs my whole life. He never had dogs. So it's not that I feel like we bit off more than we could chew with Kane, because he loves us. He listens to me. He listens to him. Mm-hmm. He'll listen to my daughter. But I feel like it's hard because we have to lock him up a lot of times if people are over. You can't trust him to just be out freely in our house. I'm afraid he would hurt someone.
The only time we had him out before was
when he was young.
We had a handful of people over, and one of them was my neighbor, Nick, and I told him, I said, if you don't mind, I'll have Kane out. I said, but I'll keep him muzzled. I said, we always have the shock collar on him, when he's out or around people. And Kane just went up and sniffed him and then turned around and walked away, got about 10 steps away, turned around and ran back and lunged at him like he was going to lunge and bite. And Nick's
full
like,
force.
And Nick didn't react really. I gave Kane a little I didn't say nothing. I just zapped him, and Kane put his head down, and then Nick started petting him. He was like, hey, it's okay, buddy, it's okay. And all of a sudden, Kane's tail starts wagging like, oh, we're friends now. And I'm like, what the hell?
To me, as an owner, like, I don't feel like his behavior adds up. You know what I mean? Like, there's no rhythm or rhyme to who Kane likes and who Kane doesn't like. It's random. The people that he will let in, the dogs he will let in. Like, it's not like it's a female or male or like one certain thing. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so random. It's so random. Because at first I was like, oh, he's, pretty good with just girl dogs, but the neighbors behind us have a puppy. It's also a boy. He's doing good with that boy. The neighbors to the right of my house have a boy and a couple girls. The boy he plays with all the time. On the left side, there's another female dog. He doesn't really care for her because of all of her barking. He doesn't seem to like dogs that bark, but he doesn't hurt her. He doesn't aggress her. He doesn't jump at the fence, try to get to her. I mean, he could clear our fence if he wanted to. He stays in his perimeter,
We did a pretty good job of knowing, keeping him,
a close eye.
And he knows that the fence is his boundary, and anytime he starts getting a little out of control, I give him the warning, and he usually knocks his shit off. But even a firm like no, and he'll stop dead in his tracks. But we had a Comcast guy come over to the back of the yard one time, and he was losing his mind, and I had to zap him a few times and bring him in the house. The Comcast guy came to the door, the front door, the next day, knocked on the door. Kane hit the glass so hard, the tall, skinny glass next to the door. He hit it so hard, he smashed right through it, sliced his paws so bad we had to rush him to the emergency room so he didn't die of blood loss. He had like 40 stitches, and oh, it was a nightmare.
It was terrible.
Needless to, he don't jump on that glass anymore, but
but he still will jump at the door. When people come to the door, it's like
he knows
he loses
his shit. He goes to run down the steps, but we holler at him, and he'll stop halfway through, but he's still like losing his mind. You know, like you can see him like convulsing, like, I gotta get to the door.
And even if it's like someone he knows, like that heightened, like someone's in my house, like that energy, he cries, and he always has to have something in his mouth. He carries it in circles for at least like 10 to 15 minutes. It's like, even if it's me and he's excited to see me, he has such a hard time calming down.
Yeah.
And like, we've talked about it so many times. Like, I feel like his behavior is really fear-based. He is such a fraidy cat dog. He's afraid of everything. Like, I don't feel like he's like an aggressive by nature dog. I feel like he's scared. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just scared.
I feel like it's a mix between fear and just being overprotective of and territorial of us, his pack, or whatever you want to call it, you know, his territory, the car, the house, because like she said, when he goes on walks, she's got him trained pretty well he pays no mind to other people or other animals on walks. On walks, it's walk time only, not wander off time and look at other things, you know. So really what triggered it, we should have done more intense training early on, but with getting the puppy, and they were doing great. And then I don't know if you knew the story or anything, but
I did say a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So
sorry, you cut out there, guys.
Oh, can you hear us?
Can you hear us now?
You cut out for a second.
Okay.
The last thing I heard was you had introduced the puppy and things were going good in the beginning.
Yeah. So when we got him, you could tell Kane wasn't thrilled, but the first couple of days, it was like he tolerated them. And over the course of a couple of weeks, it got extremely good. Kane was, I mean, I was like beside myself, happy how well Kane was being. And Kane would be submissive with him. He'd lay on his side, and they just, you know, mouth at each other. The puppy would crawl over him. They were sharing toys together.
Sleeping in the same bed.
Yeah, and then on Sunday, now keep in mind, we had a lot of people in and out. We were swimming, and I don't know if Kane was overstimulated or what, but they were playing in the kitchen, and I think what happened was the puppy went to go grab the toy, and Kane relatched, but got the puppy's snout and gave him a bloody nose. I said, Jamie, did you hear Kane? Because when Kane goes to gets aggressive, he gets very vocal, and it's almost like scary. And she goes, he didn't make a sound. I said, I think that might have been an accident. We might have just went to go get the toy, got the puppy's snout, and the puppy ran off crying. We separated him for a couple hours. The puppy took a nap, but he was very mucusy in the nose and kept, you know, blowing bloody boogers. I put him outside, and Kane started circling him and sniffing all over him. And yeah, we could see that crazy look in his eye. And then, like, you know, the prey instinct kicked in, and he kind of pounced on him and covered him, and then you could see four fang marks in the puppy's side. And yeah, it wasn't bad, but you know, the puppy was mortified.
Surprising.
And it was very surprising because I did not see that coming at all. And I looked at Kane, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? You know, like
since his accident, the smell of blood kind of freaks out the dog a little bit. if he cut himself and smelled his own blood, and he goes straight for his paws, he starts looking at him,
since he sliced himself,
he's a little bit afraid. So we thought, could it have been the smell of blood on Bo? Could it have been? Because like when he does, like he said, we truly think the first time in the kitchen was an accident. When he's done with that puppy, he growls, and Kane will growl like even under his breath and look at us like, do you hear me growling at him?
He does it.
It's kind of weird. Like, so just Bo hears it, you know?
But we catch it. We're like,
Okay,
hey, are you
you
growling
know?
at him? Like he doesn't want us to hear it. He wants the puppy to
Right.
hear it.
So there was none of that. So I truly believe that first incident wasn't an accident. But as far as like the hovering over him, he literally jumped on him to cover him up. And I was like, I thought he was trying to protect him. Maybe he thought he was hurt, you know? But then when he got off him and bit him, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like I was too far away to grab him. He was closer. He was shocking him, and he wasn't stopping.
Yeah, sometimes the shock collar, if it moves under to where he's like, you know, all that extra skin, if it moves too far under, then it doesn't get him just right. I try to keep it pulled up tight on his side because, I mean, we have a pet safe collar that I got it cranked all the way up. I hit it once and it'll damn near turn him sideways, you know, so. And if I have to, you know, because when he starts losing control like that, I have to resort to it sometimes.
Yeah, I understand. All right. So, anything else about Kane I should know?
Not really. I mean, my biggest thing for him is just, I would love for him to be more of a normal dog. Like I feel bad for him. You know, like I feel like he's losing out on life because he can't calm down. He can't relax. He can't, you know, trust besides the people he knows all the time. Like, it's like a toddler sometimes, the way he behaves it. And like, I try so hard to think like a dog would think. Like, I just don't understand his behavior.
Yeah, he has, like she said, there is no rhyme or rhythm sometimes to what he's thinking
does.
and what he does. And
because like one of his friends, a complete stranger,
met Kane as an adolescent for the first time, and Kane absolutely loves this guy. I mean,
loves him.
I know Kane's got two different barks, his mean bark, and he's got this high pitch, excited, happy bark. And when he saw my friend Eric, he's doing that high pitch bark. I'm like, I think he likes you. And Eric's like, oh, I'm kind of the dog whisperer. All dogs love me. And I'm like, yeah, it must be. I'm like, and I mean, he recognizes the vehicles like
that people drive.
That people
he's
have.
Smart.
I call him my idiot savant because he's so smart, but he's so stupid too. Right. You know, I'm like,
yeah.
So
he's very smart. He lets himself in the house. He can open the doors to the bathroom, open the doors to the bedrooms. He lets himself wherever he wants to go. He can't get out, which is good.
We have the lever action door here, so he knows if he knows up on him, he could open doors. You know? So
he's playful. He's energetic.
I mean, when
he's
you say
good dog.
When you say what else should you know? I mean, what what do you need to know about him besides him being?
No, I mean, it's a good amount of information. It's just, you know, just if there's anything else. So I'll explain all the stuff that's going on here. When you met your friend when he was an adolescent, how old was he?
Probably 1.5, almost 2. And like
when he started this, started
that friend that he absolutely loves now.
That was about
a year and a half ago.
About it. When did we get the pool? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
About 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. He was about a year and a half old. Yeah.
And you've had him since he was a puppy? 2 months?
Yeah. Since he was 8 weeks old. Yeah.
Okay. He's been aggressive like this.
It was like right when he started going through puberty. Because, I mean, he was, as a puppy, he would stay outside with us. And we kind of lived on a busier street. He would never leave our side. He'd stay right with us. He'd be in the driveway with us. He'd wander around with us. And one day he saw some kid riding his bike down the street, and he took off after that kid. And ever since then, it slowly's gotten worse and worse and worse.
How old was this happened?
I'm sorry?
How old was he when that happened with the kid?
That was
Just
about
under a year.
that was about about a year old.
Okay, so
Yeah.
prior to a year, you didn't really see any of these behaviors.
No, he was pretty good. I mean,
My dad can come over with his dog then. My dad would dog sit him. He went to a kennel and she had other dogs and he was fine with all of them except for one. Like that dog
she
him.
said, I remember this. She said that at that time he was okay for us, but the lady who kept him, she was like, he seemed a little aggressive. I don't know if I could continue boarding him for you when you guys go on vacation. I said, whatever, I get it, I understand, you know. And he was still smaller at this point, but he was at that.
It was
stage
around that
where,
same time.
Yeah, where he started.
Yeah, that year mark.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned something about he's a scaredy cat.
Yeah.
See, I don't. I can't get behind. I don't see that because he's not afraid of like, you know, loud noises. I mean, 4th of July goes on and he just kind of stands around and looks. You know, I think she's just saying it's a fear-based thing for him, like to see other people or certain other animals. But I see it as more of a protective thing, especially because of his breed and how they are. So I don't really think it's too much of I don't think he's a scaredy cat. I wouldn't put it like that.
I think that he has a little more fear than he thinks he does. Like Kane, I walk a lot at night because it's not as hot. The ground's not as bad on his pads, and that dog needs exercise. I walk him nearly every day. We do at least a mile. And the darker it is, the more, you know, he is. Like by the busy street, he doesn't necessarily like when there's a lot of traffic. Like if we go early in the morning and there's more traffic, he doesn't like that. And like if he doesn't see something coming, he like, oh my gosh, you know, even if he knows where he is, he does better, so much better with a routine. Like if you take him off of what he's used to, he just seems like he's so heightened and so like kind of scared to me. And I feel like I walk him a lot more than he does, but that's just like something I've observed. Like he really does like to go the same places and do kind of the same thing.
Let's say, have you ever experienced where someone came over and it was Kane was unsettled, and then once everything calmed down, he was fine, and if the person got up, he'd start barking again?
Yeah, we didn't. It wasn't a barking. It was my best friend Matt, and he loves Matt to death. Matt brought his girlfriend over, who Kane has met a few times, but we keep the muzzle on because we're not sure how he's going to act around her, and we just be sitting there at the countertop, and they were getting ready to leave. They were sitting there the whole night, and Jenny went to go get up because they were getting ready to leave. The second she got up, that's when he stood up right away and went to go kind of like lunge at her, but he had his muzzle on, so he was fine the whole time. And even
my dad came over, someone who he likes, someone who he absolutely, my dad lived with us for a while. My dad helped us watch him when we were on vacations and stuff. My dad forgot something, turned back around up the stairs, totally surprised Kane, and he jumped at him.
He went to her dad. That wasn't it at all. Your dad, he was getting ready to leave, and he went to go shake my hand. And as we reached out to shake my hand, that's when Kane went to go. I heard all the paws start scratching the floor like he was kicked in the 4-wheel drive, and then I heard the growl. And I turned around, and I cocked up like that. I was like, "What are you doing?" And Kane put his head down right away. And I'm like, "Dude," this is the guy that's been living with us for a while, you know? Like, I mean, he's known Kane, but that was the only time Kane's ever shown any aggression towards him.
My dad.
I don't think.
And then he did that to your mom.
My mom went to go hug our daughter one day, and she passed Kane on the couch. Kane was sitting on the couch, and so was my daughter. She went between the coffee table and Kane and went past Kane, and Ellie stood up, and she gave Ellie a hug, and I heard Kane let out that growl. And I looked at him, I'm like, do it again. And he just kind of put his head down. And my mom looked at me like, did he just growl at me? I'm like, yeah, he's a play. And I'm like, like I was trying to be passive about it, so she didn't get, the last thing I want is for her to get scared.
Because she kind of is already.
Because she'll, I know he'll feed off of that. So
if he thinks he scares you, it's like he feels like he'll give you a reason to be scared.
Right.
Okay.
That's how he kind of works.
All right. So I don't think Kane is scared. I think he's nervous.
Yeah.
So when you said when it gets dark and he's kind of edgy,
yeah,
and like things moving and stuff, and that's why I asked, has there ever been a point where he settled and someone moved and he triggered?
Uh-huh.
yeah.
That's a nervous behavior. So fear, nervousness, and anxiety look very similar, but there's something that's different, okay? Fearful dogs won't let it go. They'll keep barking. They won't let it go, okay? And they look panicked, and they'll keep at bay. Like if you move away, they move in, right? And as soon as you move in, they're like, settle back, right? That's fear. Nervousness is a trigger. Everything calms down, and then when the person or guest moves, they trigger again.
Yeah.
Anxiety wants to move around a lot, and it's nonstop.
Yeah, he'll do that too.
Is this when
It
someone
takes him a long time to calm down.
Yeah, when there's people here, even people that he knows, I mean, he's with the pacing.
Okay.
It's like he circles you like a
Circling.
shark.
Yeah,
I always laugh about
because
that.
we always
I'm
say
like,
it's like,
stop circling me like a shark. Because I feel like when he does that, I'm like waiting for him to do something bad. Like.
So it can be anxiety, or that can also be overstimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Just like not having an off switch.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not 100% on that aspect of it. I'm going to lean more towards nervousness for sure. And territorial, clearly, right?
Yeah.
So that thing and the mom thing was territorial behavior.
Uh-huh.
And you've just seen it that one instance with each of them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
My dad won't come near him.
Yeah, and
now.
ever since then, her dad has us lock him up. And I know Kane wouldn't do anything again because he likes her dad because he's been around since since Kane was a puppy, but her dad doesn't want to take any chances. So we just put him in the bedroom and
just call it a day.
Yeah.
But it stinks,
So
Sorry.
no, it's fine. I've been talking all day. And like right now, it's so awkward when I have to cough because it's like COVID,
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I'm a nurse and I have allergies, and we're wearing masks all the time, and you're like breathing it in, and I get so congested from having to breathe in the mask for hours and hours at a time. So terrible time to have a cough, though.
So, all right, so I'm trying to figure out where to start here. So one thing is, it's very easy to get complacent or too comfortable with the dog, right? So like you mentioned right now, he wouldn't ever do anything or do it again because he loves the guy, right? And he loves the guy until he does something he doesn't like.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so I always suggest to clients, you want to err on the side of caution of things. And then I'll talk about training and how all that stuff works, because once it happens, man.
Right. Right.
Like there's no.
Well, let me just say we live on the side we live on the side of caution with him.
Kane.
I mean, we have parameters set up when our daughter brings, like, say for example, I have cameras up around the house, so when she's home and she has someone come over to go swimming, I'll call her. I'll be like, make sure Kane goes in the bedroom and the door gets locked. God forbid he learns how to open the door backwards towards him. Then I'm really screwed. I got to put knobs on everything.
Yeah.
I said, and then, even if he's locked up, still, when kids get out of the pool, you know, I'll tell my daughter, be like, if they need to go in, you go in with them, just in case, and you always go first. You never know, you know. So I mean, we live by pretty strict parameters, and it sucks having to do that, because it's like, and now it's even worse, because now it's like a prison, because now I have to let dog A out so dog B doesn't get eat up, and you know, and vice versa.
We haven't reintroduced them since the incident. We don't know how, and we've talked to a few people, you know, but we don't really know how to do it safely.
As of today, everyone, as far as trainers, have been getting back to us. So I pretty much told everyone, I said, well, we have a consult tonight at 5:30. I want to see how this goes, and, you know, talk to Jesse, and you seem pretty promising. A lot of people, surprisingly, you know, don't want to deal with Kane Corsos. And I get a lot of, well, you know, that's his breed, you know, like, well, yeah, but
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. We have a friend that has one, and it's like a big love bug. It would lick you to death before it would eat you.
Sure. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I want you to say the same thing those other trainers did. I've done a ton of Corsos. I've worked with plenty. So I'm very realistic and very transparent. I'll give you a minimum and maximum what to expect, and, like, you know, some some difficulties, just through experience and stuff. Okay. So I like that you're erring on the side of caution, especially with your daughter. It's very wise. Okay. I would suggest you continue to do so. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about Kane first, and then we'll talk about the puppy incident. Okay.
Okay.
So Kane being territorial isn't anything out of the ordinary. It's normal, it's healthy behavior, and especially in the sense of security. But it's a problem when it's towards someone that you trust and are inviting in your home, right? Now, if my assumption of Kane being nervous is correct, because you've said a couple of things that that point me towards nervous, but there also wasn't like you didn't give me a ton of like stuff that would kind of validate that. Typically, like, someone's telling me stuff, I'm going, oh yeah, this is nervous, right? So if he is nervous, what happens with the territorial behavior is, imagine when that doorbell goes off, he gets, right?
Oh yeah.
But then the nervousness kicks in, because the nervousness is a stress response, okay? And when someone knocks on the door and territorial behavior kicks in, he goes under stress, okay? You might know dad's coming over, mom's coming over, best friend's coming over, but Kane doesn't. So that's why they always trigger, okay? So now he becomes territorial, nervousness kicks in, and then they don't know how to settle, or it takes them forever to settle, okay? Because you got two things combating each other. Now, that's why, you know, earlier, again, with the friend, relaxing, friend moves, and then he triggered, right? So I go, okay, that's typical nervous response. So what's lacking there is communication, where someone's telling Kane prior to the guest coming in, okay? Because there's two situations. There's Kane and there's your guest. Most people, like, put the dog away, or they put the dog back, or they'll say, come on in, ignore the dog or whatever. And, you know, if you're pulling your dog back, you're making the problem worse. If you say ignore the dog and let them relax, it may seem like it helps, but since it's on the dog's terms, he can always create issues. Because he chose to settle, so he can choose to unsettle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But when we put it on the human, where I go, hey, yeah, I know there's someone here, but you got to cut the crap and shut up and relax. And I open the door, he's not in this heightened state that theoretically we shouldn't see territorial behavior. And if you remove the territorial response, the nervousness is still there, but it's a lot easier to settle because there's not two things going on at once. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we see what happens. All right. Now there's more of a process to it, but that's the main problem, is the doorbell going off. That's the trigger. and no one's communicated to Kane. This is no obedience. This is not go sit down. This is not go to your room. This is not go to a bed. This is chill out, relax. This is my guest. I'm inviting him in, right? So not that there's conversation, and Bane, and Bane, I have a dog named Bane that I'm training. And Kane goes, oh, all right. Like, you're telling me I don't need to be like this anymore. Okay. And it's essentially saying that we trust this person, we're letting them in. Okay? That the first thing I'd expect to see is coexistence. Right? He's like, okay, come in. I'll just mind my business. Right? I kind of feel like he may warm up faster. He just doesn't have any guidance quite yet.
Yeah.
Because of what your friend did. Because you gave him consequence. And then I thought it was going to end the other way when you said your friend pet him and was like, hey, buddy. And then he started wagging his tail. I was like, oh, crap, that's not what you want to do.
Nick just leaned over. I mean, instantly, within a second of him lunging, and I didn't yell or nothing. I just gave him the zap, one quick zap, and I saw his head turn, and then Nick just, in that split second, Nick just started rubbing his body like he's like, it's okay, buddy. And then all of a sudden, I see Kane's tail doing one of these, and his whole butt's going. I'm like, who are you? Like,
yeah. So that's why that worked, is because you shut down the response. Okay. Now, just because it worked the one time, don't gamble it'll work every time, right?
Right.
Because, in my opinion, there has to be more behind it as opposed to just the consequence.
Right.
Okay? Because the consequence says cut the crap. Right. But if he's coming from a who is this entering my home kind of place, there's still that conversation that needs to be had. Right. Like, this is my friend I'm inviting in. You don't need to be that way.
Yeah.
But that's why that scenario worked out, because you cut the behavior through the consequence, you shut it down, and then your friend came in, and thankfully it worked out.
Yeah. I mean, he was muzzled, so I know he was fully muzzled, so I know I felt better, knowing that he couldn't do anything just besides the dog pushing him if he wanted to, but I was like, well, he can't do nothing to you, so.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good to know. Because
yeah,
that's a totally different ball game.
Right.
So the territorial behavior, I'm actually not too concerned about, but it always requires you to be around.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, I think having your daughter, putting them away, and then always coming in home first is very wise. And the reason why the territorial, like you having to address Kane, doesn't go away is because every time that bell goes off or that door knock happens, it's a new thing for him. He's not going to one day just learn, like, oh, whoever knocks on the door always gets allowed in. They're friends.
Right.
Always going to go to territorial nervous response.
Yeah.
Okay? You just have a means of settling them down so that you'll feel more comfortable about having guests coming over where you don't have to keep them locked away.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah.
So I don't, and then like if he goes under too much stress and he goes unaddressed, then yes, it can escalate to a point of aggression or aggressive type behaviors, because there's nothing stopping it.
Right.
So the whole thing, it's easier to prevent aggression or to stop behaviors we don't want than it is to intervene while it's already happening.
Yeah.
That's why there's always the precursor stuff that we do before we delve into other things.
Right.
Okay? So I'm like maybe 50-50 on how that would work out. I would say it sounds promising considering the other interaction that he had. And I think having more tools under your belt would give you a much higher success rate in terms of, he can learn to recognize, oh, I've seen you 100 times, right? Even prior visits. I've had plenty of dogs where someone will say, I've had this person over 100 times and they don't ever warm up to them. And then we do the exercise, and then a couple of, visits in, they're like, oh, the dog warmed right up to him right away. I'm like, yeah, because the dog saw the person 100 times. But the territorial behavior never allowed them to go from suspicion to curiosity.
Right.
Territorial is suspicion. suspicious. Curiosity is when they open up and go, oh, who are you? And like, I'm Kane, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel it's going to be a bit more promising. Of course, you know, muzzle and all that stuff, just be precautious.
Right.
To a point where you feel comfortable.
Mhm.
But always in the back of your head, it's kind of like, you know, you make progress, you're doing great. Maybe you move past some of the, in the back of your head, you always want to think, but he did have problems.
Yeah.
You don't become complacent.
Right. Right.
I've had dogs that were crazy aggressive, and we turn them around.
Yeah.
You know, not always, and it's not 100% of the time, but we get those cases where like, holy crap, like the owner's like, this shit fucking worked.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. But then they get complacent and they think the dog is fixed permanently.
Right.
No,
Right.
no. Like,
Yeah, no.
I'm giving you tools to keep your success, but it's constant work.
Right. Right.
And it's not like you're going out your way all the time, but you're there to reinforce in case the dog screws up one day.
Right.
Okay. The car territorial behavior, normal. Okay. We can address it, not a problem. Okay. As long as it's not like territorial and then you want that person to get in the car with them. A little bit different because it's a small.
I know, like, dude, it's just.
You can't even go through the drive-through.
Oh my God, it's embarrassing. Like I'll go to, you try to go through the drive-through and he's like right there next to your head, losing his mind, you know. And I'm like, I'm slapping him, like, get back. What is the matter with you? You know, like, even if I go to the gas station, I'll go to the gas station, I pull up, and you know all the windows are up. I have tinted windows in my truck, and all I see from in the gas station is my truck rocking back and forth because someone walked past that. He's lunging and my alarm's going off. I'm like, oh my God, you idiots.
That can be addressed, no problem. Okay. It's just stop. It's just cut the crap.
Right.
So, like, if for the home, like, let's say it's just like Amazon and the postal service, it's real easy because it's just cut the crap because we're not going to enter the home.
Right.
Entering the home and getting him comfortable with those guests, that's the tricky part. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
With the car, when you said he has to have something in his mouth, right? That's redirected frustration, and that's actually a sign of overstimulation, where he's just got so much pent-up energy, it has to go somewhere. And dogs express things through their mouth, right? They lick, they chew, they bark, they bite, they whine, right? It's all mouth expressive. So when he grabs something, all that just stimulation is being directed to that toy and the pressure of biting on it. Okay, so not really a problem, other than the fact that it conveys there's no off switch.
It's just an indicator. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's
when
bad.
we get home.
It's just like when we got. You could see if he doesn't have something around. You could see the panic in his face, like he's frantically trying to find something to grab, just whether it's my muddy ass work boot or a sock or a piece of garbage he found. He has to grab something.
Yeah. So it's more so an indicator, like you said. Ideally, I would want that to go away with structure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we can even stop that ourselves, where it's like, hey, buddy, you got to find a healthier way of dealing with that energy, because it may look cute and it may be funny, right? But it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't know. I just thought maybe it's just what dogs do, you know? Like, I don't know.
And I've had other dogs do the same thing,
Uh-huh.
but they didn't have the problems that Kane has.
I got you.
That's so every case is different. Like, I could come in and I'm like, okay, the dog does this. I know it's a problem. And then I look at everything else. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not worried about it then.
Yeah. Right.
Now the puppy stuff. I think you're correct when you said like prey drive kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're correct on that. Because when you're telling me the story, like, my brain's just going through everything that I would expect to happen. And none of the usual culprits. Like, usually, like, when you said, oh, like, he bit him over the toy, I thought it would be resource guarding, which is totally different. right? But then you said you think because he's so big, that made sense, right? That nobody.
Well, and the other thing too, I forgot to add in was right when he did it, Jamie picked the puppy up because he was screaming and was bleeding off his nose. And Kane was following Jamie, and you could see the look of concern on his face, like, "Oh my God, what did I do?" Like he could tell, like he knew he did something wrong, and he didn't mean to. He's like following Jamie, like, "Oh my God, did I do something?" And I just put him away at that point, and we called it a day for a couple hours. We let everyone kind of settle for a little bit. Right. A couple hours later, that's when the shit show started. So
yeah, so that really I think you're correct. That's the only thing that makes sense to me is just pray.
Right.
Now, this is the problem, okay, is that when I've worked with plenty of homes where there's dog fights happen within the home. And almost always, once that first one happens, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And
I'm not saying that they can't coexist. It's just the level of structure that's required because everybody wants to go back pre-fucked up moment.
Right, right.
And for the average dog owner, it's either a lot of work or they don't have the dog behavior savvy to be ahead. Okay, so like when I used to board dogs out of my home, I used to have dogs that would bite people and kill their dogs. And they didn't like each other, but they knew not to screw around because I would give them consequences very harshly. Okay? And that's how I'm able to keep peace because they're like, we don't want to.
Yeah. Dad's gonna spank us.
Yeah, because they're not my dogs.
Right.
So I don't have any emotional attachment, and in all the cases that I've ever worked with, more often than not, people either get complacent because they're like, it's been great for months, and they get eased up on structure or discipline, and next thing you know, it happens again.
Right.
Or they think everything's going great, and then they don't see a particular thing about to happen, and then it's another fight. So that's the hard part.
Right.
I like that you've not reintroduced them. That's wise. I had a client, the dogs were great for like 2 years, and then they got in a fight, and she didn't tell me. And then like a week later, she reintroduced them, and right away they got to a fight. And I was like, call me, like I would have do that and like figure out a plan. So yeah, that's wise. So with the puppy and Kane thing, one, you also have to think about the puppy. Like Kane probably put a pretty traumatic.
He did, and the puppy I could tell is terrified because I mean the next day Kane walked into our daughter's bedroom where the puppy stays inside a locked kennel in there, and he opened the door. I heard him sniffing around. He was sniffing. I walked over there and I heard Kane start growling, and this is the very next day. And Kane was giving those little low growls, and I said, "All right, get out." The next day, another day went by. Kane went in there again. I had a handful of treats. I made Kane lay down next to the kennel, and I gave them both treats. The puppy through the kennel and Kane outside the kennel, and Kane sniffed. I saw a little tail wag, and I was like, "Okay, that's enough for today. Get on out." Like I wasn't about to push it, because any second Kane could just snap that puppy in half if he wanted to, and the puppy's terrified. I could tell he's afraid to come out near Kane right now. So
what that could potentially lead to is if Kane sees that fear.
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned it about like he'll target, right? Like if he sees your
yeah,
and that's normal in dogs like Kane, because nervousness is a weak energy. And weak energy targets weaker energy.
Right.
So him seeing that puppy and seeing the puppy power could potentially trigger.
Right.
Okay? It can be corrected. Okay, you can teach him you don't chew with the puppy.
Yeah.
But then We'll be friends again.
Right.
It's just coexistence, right?
Right.
But then you also have to get the puppy's comfort to where he's like, I don't have to worry about Kane because mom and dad are going to handle it.
Right.
Okay, so that's where things get complicated.
Right.
The thing too is like Bo will be bigger than Kane. So I wonder like if he won't take his shit when he gets bigger. You know?
Well, I mean, that's potential that, the problem there is you're going to have two, because he's a mastiff, right? Bo
Yeah.
is?
English Mastiff. Yeah, his dad was 240.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
A dog fight between those two, forget about it.
Yeah,
man.
I know. It's like Clash of the Titans. That's what, ever since the start, I was like, oh my God. And we talked about it, and I said, unfortunately, Kane's a fixture in this family, a permanent fixture, an asshole of a fixture, but still a fixture. I said, I cannot, there is no rehoming that dog for me. That's my boy, and I said, if anyone's good, if this doesn't work out, we would have to rehome the puppy.
Mhm.
And we have multiple options for that with friends of ours that would be willing to take him. But I said, I don't want to see this puppy get killed.
Right.
I'd like to see them get along, but I have more hope in Kane getting his people fear worked out than I do with him getting his
That is correct.
another animal in the house worked out for him.
That is correct.
So
I'm on the same page as you on that.
yeah,
So, because what it would end up looking like is Kane muzzled, right? A lot with the puppy, like if not all the time, because there's going to be a lot of developmental stages for that puppy.
yeah,
6 months and a year, which actually going back to when you said things started happening at a year, that's usually when. So 6 months, if we don't see behavior change then, year. Okay, so what you said falls right in line with the growth process of a dog. So maybe everything's great for that first year with that mastiff until he's a year.
right,
And that's when shit starts to go down.
right,
Right. So I tell everybody, you want to think future-wise. We want to deal with if it would happen, 135-pound dog versus a possibly 200-pound dog in a dog fight.
right,
Right. That's
right.
the reality of things.
right.
Right. And it's it's a tough question, but it's realistic because I'm not trying to sell you rainbows and fairy farts and shit.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
And like you said, the potential of a dead puppy, and I've walked into homes with dead dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it is a very real thing. So it's either, and the way I operate is like, let's say you told me like, no, Jesse, we want this to work. And I go, okay, well then the trade-off is Kane's always going to be muzzled when he's around that puppy, right? And as that puppy gets older, we have to really watch. And then there might be a point where they're both muzzled,
Right.
And we're talking time of coexistence before you feel comfortable.
Right.
But then in the back of your head, you also have to be aware of, this could happen again.
This could happen again still. Yeah.
So, because people think like you fix the dog and then everything's golden. And I go, no, I'm like, me and my brothers, I'm the oldest. I have two brothers and a sister. We fought all the time growing up.
Right. Yeah.
We fight each other. That's the big thing with dogs. Like, it's normal for a fight to happen on occasion.
Right.
But because they handle it with teeth, and in your case, you have very, very big dogs.
Yeah.
That's where things get trickier.
Right.
So, that's the reality of things. And I'm not trying, like, I'll find you an answer. It just may not be the perfect answer. It's kind of
No. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. But I think the human stuff is for sure that's easier because you can always tell the human what to do.
Right.
Right. Like you can't teach Bo to do things very specifically, like, oh, when you walk around Kane, walk like this, don't do this, don't do them like this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Any questions about that?
Only what do you think that it would be in our best interest to get rid of the puppy?
Yes. Okay. And I don't say that lightly. I have an ego, and my ego tells me fucking make it happen. But my ego has also put me in predicaments where we pushed too much and then it ended up not working out for the owner. Okay. Because again, I've worked with clients that their dogs have fought within the home, and everybody wants to go back to before the fight. And almost always that's not how it happens.
Right.
Okay. Now, stopping him from seeing Bo in a predatory state and all that stuff is completely doable.
Okay.
The problem is rebuilding a relationship, right? Because you also have to rebuild the puppy trust with Kane.
Right.
You know, like the puppy, like now the puppy's like, oh shit, like don't screw with
Yeah.
you.
And
So
it wasn't just Kane either. After that happened, the people behind us, they have their dog, their daughter's dogs, and then the other neighbor, their puppy, and they're all really sweet, and they're all females, and they love, you know, a week ago, Bo was out there prancing around, playing with all of them. After this happened, I bring him over there, and any of the dogs run fast around, and he's curling up in a ball, or he's yelping if they got too fast around him or too close.
yeah.
So I already noticed that he's already getting real afraid.
Yeah. Definitely in the meantime, while you have that puppy, you know, or if you're keeping them on her, whatever, exposure, because that can lead to a problem in the future. So typically, you know, when I get a dog that becomes dog aggressive, like I said, it's 6 months out of a year. If it doesn't happen on its own through personality shift, it happens through negative experience.
I gotcha.
Right,
So keep introducing him to the dogs and letting them play and stuff. And
you know,
right.
Hopefully that goes away.
Right.
Otherwise, future-wise for Bo, you know, that can build to a bigger problem.
Yeah. Right.
Okay? And it may not. Like, unfortunately, I can't give you a concrete answer. I've had people do things by the perfect, and the dog still screwed up.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no guarantee that things, unfortunately. But at least you're taking steps in the right direction if you continue exposure.
Yeah. Right.
The way I would approach this, and I know you guys you're in New Lenox, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing is I see the e-collar you have. In my opinion, that's not the appropriate e-collar for. And I believe you said it earlier. Like there's some times where he's so far gone that it doesn't come through.
Well, just when it's like it gets slack in it, and if he gets under, by where he's like real jolly, you know, the skin.
Yeah.
Just hang. If it gets down under there, he won't feel it. But when he goes and leaves, when he goes out, right before he goes out, I'll turn the collar, I'll bring it up so it's up around here, and boy, does he feel it there, you know, because it's dead on into the skin there. So
it's probably not fitted correctly if it's sliding down.
Right. I know we have to constantly tighten it up, and that's pretty much the only thing that's causing that. But what did you say that the Pet Safe one isn't the one you would recommend?
Yeah, so there's only one brand that I use, and that's Dogtra.
Okay.
For me, in my opinion, it's the best brand there is. I've been using it for 8-10 years now. Now the unfortunate thing is they just recently discontinued the model that I would recommend for Kane. You can still find some, surprisingly they're scarce, but you can still find some. I think eBay has a couple still that are
okay.
But it's meant for 70 pounds and over.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 1 mile range, fully waterproof. And how many levels does your remote have?
15.
Okay. So mine has 127.
Okay.
So it's not more power. Imagine if they have the same power, but you have 100.
It's just a different variable range. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You really fine tune it, right?
Right.
And it's important when we work with behavior, because if you're too high and the dog's yelping, you're not really teaching anything. But then you're too low, and then you get a response, right? You're like,
yeah.
So I think that would, if we can get one for him, that would be your best bet. And then The first thing I would do, I know you said Kane walk like he like kind of nonchalant, doesn't really care about stuff. We'd have to put a really good heel on him just for the discipline aspect of it. This would actually help with the nighttime stuff and like the skiddiness to get that nervousness under control. Okay. The next thing we'd want to approach after that is most likely like the door exercise with like people coming over. Okay. Now and then after that, so after recover the door exercise, which is a class because it's teaching you a skill, then it's practice the skill, right? That's going to take time because in order to get him to be comfortable with people, you have to repeat that. Not like obedience is easy.
Right.
Boom, great, right? Whereas this is not a skill, this is an emotional response or a way of feeling in a certain context.
Yeah.
Okay, so that takes time, but it's really simple to do. The territorial over the car, not too worried about that. The redirected frustration, that should ideally go away with the structured leash walking. If not, that may be something that we'll want to squash. But I really just care about how is everything else progressing. Okay, if all that's progressing well and he's seeming calmer, less nervous, not so overstimulated, that we're making steps in the right direction, I may not even care about that down the line. Okay. The next thing would be, let's say the stuff doesn't work the way we want it to. Okay, and Kane is still being a bit of a pushy jerk. Then we go to like stationary control. Okay, which is, all right, well, you don't want to do it. You don't want to allow my guest or accept my guest coming in. Lay your butt down. You're not going to move for the next 3 hours. This is how we start to rebuild relationship with like your dad and mom, because right now they may perceive them as uncontrollable, right? So that's part of their the fear. So once you have control and it's like, oh wow, like he's not moving, he's not moving for nothing for the past 3 hours. They get more comfortable, they'll start to act more normal because they see control. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then whether or not we progress that to trying to rebuild that relationship, I mean, there's two parties here. There's Kane and then there's your parents.
Right.
So if they're just not on the ball, then at least you have them under control, they can be relaxed. But I wouldn't count on them ever being buddies.
Yeah.
At least to the extent of where everybody feels 100% comfortable.
Right.
Being a step ahead and just recognizing certain things, like, you know, if now it can be worked on. Like, let's say you have a buddy come over and let's shake hands, and Kane growls. You can correct that.
Okay.
You can stop that. That's none of your business. So, like, maybe because we have 4 responses. We have fight, flight, avoidance, submission.
Right.
Okay. The growling and lunging is fight response. So if you correct them and you say that's not allowed, then he has 3 others: run away, avoid the situation, or just allow it to happen. Okay. Ideally, we wouldn't want him to run away. It would either avoid it or don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So avoid it would look like you go to shake hands and he pretends that's not happening, or he just gets up and like leaves him. He's not running away. He's just like this makes him comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
And then maybe over time he just learns to accept it. I don't know how that's going to play out. That's something that Kane has to decide.
Right.
So stopping behaviors is relatively easy because it's just a consequence to deter the behavior.
Right.
Trying to rebuild stuff or like create relationships, that's where the hard part, and that's where a lot of time kicks into play. Okay? If we tried to do the puppy thing, it would be all that stuff. You would need a ton of control over Kane, obedience-wise. So if it's like, one, it's if we ever see him targeting the puppy, we would correct it. Any kind of aggressive or things we're unsure about towards the puppy, we would correct it. But then it'd also be control, because it's the same thing with the puppy where he's like, hey, Kane is here, but also he's not moved for a period of time because you said something, and the puppy will start to open up and be a bit more relaxed. Okay, dogs can recognize that.
Yeah.
But the long-term goal of going to a normalcy, you know, it's just play it by ear and see what happens. And then also think about the puppy and then the potential personality or behavioral shifts that puppy may have.
Right.
After that bite.
What do I do?
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
And that would be something that we would keep tabs on. I would just tell you to check in with me as things go, you know, progress. And then if you notice anything with the puppy, challenging behavior and stuff like that. The other thing is, if Kane is not neutered and you keep that puppy not neutered, you know, testosterone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I personally don't care about neutering or not neutering.
Uh-huh.
But I just had a dog that I had to recommend it to because he kept mounting the other dog, and they actually ended up fighting because she went to correct him, and then he attacked her. It's like, don't you correct me? And I told her if your dog was neutered, that may have never happened because that he was mounting her. Dog's 5 years old. It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, right.
It's got to go somewhere. And then the dog was like, no, you don't do that to me. And it would previously, they were like, yeah, the guy was like, he rapes her. And they thought it was a joke. And I was like, well, and I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, it's a joke until something happens. And
Yeah,
that's
right.
exactly what happened.
Right.
So they had him neutered because I told him, you know, you can't make her accept that.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's more difficult than just removing his testicles to stop after a month.
Right.
And you don't get that mounting behavior anymore. Otherwise, we correct it.
Right.
Okay. So that would be something I'd recommend is the neutering.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to deal with testosterone. If you keep the one with Kane, I don't foresee it being a big deal if you can neuter.
I'm sorry, say that again. If I did what with Kane?
If you end up like rehoming Bo,
Uh-huh.
then neutering Kane isn't really a thing that
Yeah, right.
Okay, because again, like it's how would you say, it doesn't really pertain to the issues that he has.
Yeah.
But if you have 2 unneutered males or an unneutered male with a male, like that's
Right.
challenging behavior.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the only reason we never did for Kane was because of a couple of the vets said, well, neutering a breed like that could go one of 3 ways. Nothing could happen. It could get better or it could get worse. And I'm like, well, I don't want a chance getting worse. We'll just leave them.
Yeah.
So
I've never seen that happen.
I've never either, but then again, I haven't really been around any other King Corsos or a breed like that to know. So I just took their word for it.
The most common thing that does happen
Is what?
is nothing changes.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. Yeah.
Like I've had plenty of people neuter their dogs because of aggressive behaviors, and the dog's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It helps with testosterone-based behaviors like mounting, the need to mate, marking, and then in your case, if you had the 2 dogs, you know, because they're challenging each other and stuff like that, because Bo's gonna smell Kane's testicles and vice versa. That's
Yeah. Right.
Get tricky.
Right.
Okay. But yeah, if you end up just keeping Kane, then I don't foresee it being an issue, and I leave that to be optional.
Right.
Okay. Now the next thing here is, you guys are far as hell.
Yeah. How far away are you?
Yeah. Where are you at?
I don't know. I think you guys are like an hour. Aren't you? I'm in Logan Square. Let's take a look here.
Yeah. About that. About an hour.
Yeah. So the issue here, sorry, I'm Googling this,
Yeah, that's okay.
is because of COVID, we've had to change the way we operate. Because obviously if I'm doing home to home, I'm seeing a lot of people.
Yeah, right.
No traffic, 55 minutes. I'm seeing a lot of people going into their homes and going into other people's homes, right?
Right.
Is I'm exposing a lot of people potentially.
Yeah.
And then I get people that are high risk as well. So what we've been doing is we meet here in the city of Chicago, and I'm not touching the dog anymore. It's all verbal instruction. And I coach you through everything. Okay. And it's actually been working out really well.
Mm-hmm.
And we record it as well because since it's so much verbal instruction, it's a ton of information.
Yeah.
If you forget something, you just turn around and watch your video, go to your part, and go like, oh, okay, this is what he said. It also helps with couples that bicker over what I said. So, like, just go to the video. And also, if you're struggling with something, I can simply send you somebody else's video, and you can watch it. So it's a little kind of reference, if you will. The inside stuff. So the beauty about e-collar and the way that I teach it is that it's very simple to understand. It's common sense, really, once you understand it. That the stuff in the home we may be able to do over Zoom. Okay, because I actually have a video. I actually just did a session today with when I was doing in-home visits to handle the door aggression or the territorial behavior. So I have an actual session that you can see and you can go like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like, right? Then we set up the Zoom and I can coach you, but you already at least have a visual of what we're going to create.
Right.
Okay, so I did that with my client today. I sent her the video, practiced it. Today we actually practiced it via Zoom. Okay. And then the other stuff, again, is common sense. And with having a muzzle, it allows us to press more without any real risk to those that we're trying to, socialize with. Okay. In terms of length of time, if your main concern is the behavior stuff, I would just start you or suggest you do my 6-week program. It's 1 day a week for an hour. So it's 6 classes. Plus you get 2 Zooms complimentary. Okay. So you're really getting 8 hours of work with me as opposed to 6.
Yeah.
We would do 2 in person, teach you how I use e-collar, how it works, the psychology behind it. The 3rd class, or between, I would send you the video, I would watch this video, get your questions down, we do the Zoom, and then I go, what do you have questions on? I answer those questions, and then we practice with someone like ringing the doorbell or whatever. Okay. You practice that, and you only practice that. I wouldn't worry about having the guests come in quite yet.
Okay.
Get the exercise down, right? Week later, then we do, okay, you mastered it, back Kane up, have the guests come in. This is how we progress to building trust. Okay. And then after that, it's play it by ear. Okay. If it's like, nah, he's still being a bit of a jerk, then I go, then we need more control. And then we teach something like the down command or whatever. So if I say down and he's not going to move for like 3-4 hours, I don't care how long it is, his butt's going to stay still.
Right.
Okay. That's how I operate. I think about what you need, what you want, or like what you think you need and want. And then I think about what I think you need, and I find that middle ground. Okay. I'm not really big on things that you're not going to use. Okay. There's stuff that's absolutely necessary, and there's stuff that's like, sure, it'd be nice, but it's not going to be applicable.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we just see what happens. If you want to do the heavy things, that would be time, right? And I'm not saying that we're seeing each other every day for every week or a day.
Right.
We would do a chunk of stuff, and I would say, okay, this is your instructions for the next 2 months. And it's like kind of email checking in and seeing what's going on. And then like maybe after a few months, we need to schedule a session. Then we schedule it.
Yeah.
And then I don't see you for another 2 months. And then again, another session. And then it's just, so it's not weekly. Once you get the core down, you do your homework, but we'll be seeing each other every now and then over the course of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions?
I don't really have any questions.
No,
Except for how we would get a hold of a collar like that if they
Just
don't make it.
So the other thing that we can do is if we have to go with a lesser power collar, okay, we see how it works. And worst comes to worst, you can actually pair a second collar to the remote. So you can compensate the power. It's just now your dog's going to have 2 boxes instead of 1.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I talked to the company. I actually bitched them out, and I was like, "Why would you cancel your best collar?"
Yeah.
And whatever. But they gave me another suggestion. They're like, "This one is compatible to the one you're thinking, the one that we discontinued." I disagree, but I'm going to have to start experimenting. So I may have you, if we can't find it, the one that we need, I would say, let's go with this one. And I think price-wise, even if you end up getting a second collar, it ends up being the same cost as the higher-powered one.
Uh-huh.
Because the higher-powered one is 352 attacks.
Okay.
And I think this other one is cheaper. So if you buy the individual collar, it's like 100 or so bucks, that it would probably end up roughly equaling cost-wise the same as the higher-powered one.
Right.
Okay. I've had my collars 8 years, no issues. So, it's an investment, but they do last a very long time. Fully waterproof, 1 mile range. So plenty of control. Sorry.
I had to plug my phone in, but that's Kane.
Yeah, I was talking to an employee right now. So where was I saying? Yeah, so we've been working at Oz Park here because it's a nice, busy environment. A lot of distractions and stuff. Since you guys are coming from New Lenox, we do meet with some clients at Independence Park, which is right off the expressway.
Okay.
Because Oz Park will probably add another 15 to 20 minutes to your trip. So you're looking at like a 2.5 to 3 hour round trip. So Independence Park is not as busy, but if all we care about is just getting that skill set down of the leash walking, to set the foundation for everything else, then that's fine. I have another couple that I'm working with right now. They have 7 dogs. And that's what we're doing. We're doing 2 at Independence, and then we're doing the rest via Zoom until we feel like we're good, and then we'll do in person.
Where's that Independence off of? Off of 94 and like what?
Like Irving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Irving, maybe by like west of Kimball a bit.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly, but I believe it is on the park is on Irving Park, and the expressway is like literally like 3 minutes away from it or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it'll make that easier, and everything else is played by ear. So it's up to 6 classes in person, plus 2 classes over Zoom. So like you could do 2 in person. We do some on Zoom, and then maybe you have a couple classes left over, and you want to work on something else like obedience-wise. We can meet in person again. Or you can do up to 6 in person, and then we do 2 over Zoom. It's flexible in terms of how it operates. The only other thing that we could potentially do, but I'm not sure if we can, is one of my employees or one of my trainers is now just starting. I'm just starting to give him clients. And what we did with another client was he's doing the in-home because I live out in Palatine.
Mm-hmm.
And he's working with him. He's doing 6 with that client in person in Palatine, but then he's doing 3 Zooms with me. Okay. And it's the same price point. It's $825, but because he's getting my junior trainer, they're getting the Zooms with me so that I can close the gap on anything that they might be struggling with.
Right.
So he could help with at least doing the teaching the obedience stuff. The behavioral stuff you'd still be doing with me via Zoom. Okay, but it would save you the trip. And there's it's a $25 travel fee. So if you did like 2 classes in person with him, you'd attach, $50 on top of that. And if you end up doing more with him, then you just $25.
Where does is he still go to the Independence Park? Is that what you're saying?
He go to you.
He can come to us. Oh, okay.
He go to you, and we probably put it, if available, on a Wednesday, because that's when he's out doing all his other visits. And I think, is Palatine close to you guys at all?
Hell, it's not, but it's an easier drive than the city because we're right off 355 and 80. So the Palatine's a straight shot down 290, 355 all the way straight down. So it's a lot easier,
Okay.
but it's probably about the same distance, or time wise and distance. So
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look at it. That's a potential as well. But yeah, any questions?
how do you feel about boarding? I looked at some places that offered boarding training, and I mean, is that something we should consider as well?
So the only issue I have with board and train is that, one, the issue that we're dealing with in the home is in your home.
Yeah, right.
Like, we're not going to have people knocking on doors and coming in and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
We can do all the obedience stuff. The obedience stuff isn't a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's behavioral stuff. It's behavioral stuff that's rooted in the presence of you. You know,
right.
Within your home, because like you said, on the walk he could care less.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, if you were to tell me we wanted a really obedient kind of Corso and we want to work on these behavior problems, then I would say, okay, like we can do the obedience stuff here,
Mm-hmm.
and then with the follow-ups, I would help you to address the behavior,
Right,
and teach you what he knows. In my book, when it comes to behavioral stuff, I always encourage the owners to do it themselves because you're the ones that are going to live with him.
Yeah.
Right. So once you start the training and you start making mistakes and stuff, you're learning as Kane is learning. So you stay on the same page, as opposed to you get Kane after so much progress, but now there's a gap in terms of what you know.
Sorry. Come on, it's out.
See,
Very.
he has a good personality.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
He hears us not paying attention to him. That's what that is.
But yeah, so it's really personal preference. If you did a board and train, the minimum I recommend is 2 weeks. To get get a feel for his personality, see if he starts to open up and show us like the real Kane. And then
is that something you do too? You do a board train?
Yeah, we do board and trains here.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
the 2 week, I think it's around $2,000 and something.
Okay.
You get 1, 2, 3. I think you get up to 5 or 6 hours of follow up with the board and train.
Okay.
It's on my website.
Okay.
So one thing about other board and trains is I've had people give their dog to someone for 2 weeks and they spend like 30 minutes with the trainer and then that's it. And like nothing about the dog, what the dog knows, right? Where we spend a lot, like it's 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure it's probably 6 hours of training follow up. Okay, so it could be 3 2-hour sessions, or 6 1-hour sessions, or 1 2-hour session and 4 1-hour sessions. It's just hours of work.
Right.
So if we teach all the obedience stuff and we go, okay, this is what Kane knows, and you practice it, you apply it, you learn it, you know how it works, then we can very easily use the other time for the behavioral stuff, right? But here we wouldn't be able to advance you behaviorally because it's not there's not his territory here.
Right. I didn't know if getting him
out of our home
would help for initially. I didn't know. So.
In my opinion,
Okay.
And how do you say? Because it's contingent on the home.
Yeah, right.
And just so you know, like me telling you no, it wouldn't be beneficial is me losing $1,000 and something. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No. I know you're being honest on what you're saying, and I appreciate that too. So
I don't care about the money. I care about making sure that any work that you do with your dog. I look at my job as making sure you get what you want so that you get to keep your dog and have the life that you want with your dog and be happy.
Right.
Right. About the money. That's why I always encourage people, do it yourself, because you learn so much more.
Right.
Drawback is, obviously COVID. If it wasn't for COVID, it'd be a little bit easier because I could travel.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But
Trust me, we're all battling bullshit with COVID right now.
Yeah. So, you have a couple options. You can meet us at Independence Park. You'd work with me. Or I can have my junior trainer travel out to you, do a couple of sessions. He's a solid trainer, but then your Zooms would be with me. And then we play it by ear.
How's your schedule? I mean, are you kind of all over the place as far as what times you could do and stuff like that?
It went from Saturdays and Sundays only, and then that got filled up. Now it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and that got filled up. Now we just opened up Tuesday. So it really just depends on your availability. And
I meant more or less like the time, just because she's a nurse and I work on the pipeline. It's like we normally don't get home till 5 sometimes. Maybe a little earlier some days, but I just didn't know what the timing was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, we've been going. I think the latest we've been having is scheduled right now is 6 o'clock. So we ended.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it really. If you told Maria your schedule, she'd look at my schedule and figure out what she can do.
Work it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's every day. So if I had, if one of us had or both of us had to leave early once a week, I'm sure it wouldn't be the end of the world. So.
And once we switch to Zooms, it makes life a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah, that helps a lot too.
In person, and then the rest is on Zoom, and it's fine if it's at 8:30 p.m. because I'm at my facility. I don't have to travel anywhere.
Right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Anything else? Any questions?
Any more questions?
So yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about the puppy. I'm worried. I don't know what to do.
It's a tough decision. I mean, because you have two power breeds, and one dog's gonna get very much bigger than the other one, and
I just don't want to have either one of them live like prisoners for the next year until this puppy gets bigger to where Kane can't just snap them in half right now, and then have the possibility where they both rip each other's throats out when they're old enough.
Yeah.
That's my fear. I hoped that it wasn't gonna go bad. We knew that there was this possibility. We had 2 great weeks, and we thought, okay, this is awesome. There's no way this could go wrong. And then, like that, I mean, in a flash, it went terrible. So,
I mean, it's how it works.
And now I fear that it's just nothing's really gonna change too much on Kane's side for the puppy. Just out of the way he's reacted a few times that I've seen. So,
I mean, there's that, and there's also the stress on you guys.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I'm very familiar with it, in terms of what the
right.
So, give it some thought. Remember, you want to think future.
Right.
What the worst it would look like if we made this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Best case scenario is they become best friends, nothing ever happens again. But 12 years, 15 years, right? A long time for anything to not happen.
Yeah, right.
So, you want to think about that. You want to think about, okay, they're going to be muzzled once the other puppy gets old enough. He's going to be muzzled as well. Obviously, kind of don't want to make you paranoid, but you got to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, right.
Before you make that decision.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. So Maria will be in contact with you. She'll read pricing and stuff.
Okay.
And then, think about it, mull it over. You have other options and stuff like that. If you decide to move forward, just let us know.
Okay.
Awesome. We really appreciate your time and all the information.
Yeah.
That's huge. So
just let us know.
Awesome. All right, man. We'll probably be talking to you guys soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.